Okay, we are live. So we are live right now, and welcome to the Rise Up Show. This is the first interview live right here with Chris Delaney, and I hope I pronounced the
Right
name
on, buddy.
right.
Yep.
And is a purpose development coach. He's a founder of International Connector, a Survive or Thrive podcast. Like I said, he went through a hell and back, and I hope that you heard it. That's why I'm repeating it, and I hope the software work right now. From being broke through a loss of a dear family member and being on the corporate world of Fortune 500. And now he's doing a live events, help people to fulfill their dreams with passion and joy by finding their own purpose. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How is
Good.
it going there?
This is great. I know we were talking a little bit before the interview, and we
Yeah,
just moved from Ohio down to Tennessee, and we're about to hit the road open ended for the next 12 months, my partner and I. So
nice.
it's an incredible thought, expansive. It's feeling great.
It sounds amazing. You told me that you're also doing live events while you're on the trip, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the idea is, we're going to be doing some private, immersion boot camp style retreats. Because I'm a firm believer in immersion, meaning, if I spend some time maybe over in Israel for a day or two, I might pick up some things. But if you drop me in the middle of this thing, and allow me to kind of seek my own information, within a few weeks, I mean, we're going to start feeling a little bit different. But
Mhm.
it's a passion of mine to connect people. The intentional connector platform is really what I'm focused on as well through both my coaching and through other businesses that I have. And
Mhm.
yeah, we did one on Saturday. It was very
Nice.
informal. I'm not a huge fan of polish and circumstance, so it was very cool.
That sounds thrilling what you're doing right now, traveling and working at the same time with your girl.
Yeah, yeah, it's really a blessing.
So Chris, tell us the short version on who you are.
Yeah. The short version of who I am would be I am. That's kind of what I'm trying to help people understand is we are who we are. We do this exercise where we ask people to write a list of all the titles that we use to describe who we are. And
Mhm.
if I was to say I was an entrepreneur and a coach, that would be a small expression of who I am. It's just how I show up in the world in some ways. But I like to think of myself as somebody who went from that position from surviving to thriving. That's where that came from.
Mhm.
um, I am somebody who believes I create my reality because I follow what I call the first rule, which is I have a choice and freedom is
Yeah.
choice. So, I had some things happen in my life. As you mentioned, I lost my mom when I was 21 to a 21-year battle with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And
That's tough.
yeah, but when you grow up in that environment, you don't know any differently. So how do you know it's really tough? There's no
Yeah.
contrast, and I think I didn't experience that until after the loss. But I also had a brother who was serving a very long-term jail sentence, 22 years. So
Wow.
I was spending time as a kid going into chemo and radiation in summers, and then max prisons in New York on holidays. So long story short, I'm thankful that I grew up the way that I did. My mom did an exceptional job of showing me courage and very mission driven, not goal driven, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. Mission is
Mhm.
different in that you just can't give up on the goal, right? You have to focus
Yeah.
on achieving the objective. From there, I was a college dropout by choice. I had a great GPA. I just didn't find a lot of fulfillment in it. And I didn't think what I was learning was
Mhm.
going to be what I wanted for my purpose, but worked in the restaurant industry. Then I ended up in the Fortune 500 space in operations and sales, did very well with that, but I was asked to do some unethical things. And it just wasn't for me. Went through divorce at 30, 31 years old. I was in a whole other part of the
Wow.
country. I didn't know anybody. And I ended up in Texas. That's why I wear this shirt a lot. And I remember I woke up in Texas and I had no vehicle opportunity. I didn't know anybody. I had no money. I had 68 cents to my name, and I was living with my brother at 31. So um,
Wow.
from there, I really started focusing on this principle of controlling what I knew to control, my reaction to the situation. And I wrote down 10 things for my life that I wanted out of the things I didn't want and focused on those, the emotion of it. And then, from there, went after it. Now, the progression was from personal development and entrepreneurship into this more purposeful alignment piece, which was, geared a lot more towards meditative practice, more so getting off the personal development side, more so into personal truth work, internal work, and really using that to focus on what we're doing now, heavy manifestation work. So that's why I went from personal development into purposeful development.
Wow, that's a huge transition.
It is because I think the difference comes when, we have, the cup is the personal development, right? We create this cup
Mhm.
to learn about ourselves and how we show up in the world, and we desperately are thirsty for what's in the cup. And so a lot of people don't know to seek the liquid when you can go days, weeks without eating, but the liquid is what keeps us alive. And so
Mhm.
I just saw a lot of people I was working with, and me including, struggling with, you might even be doing really well financially in your vehicle, but you're just not
Mhm.
fulfilled or happy. And if you're not,
Yeah,
you're going to be grinding, hustling, and struggling, and that's not, we glorify it, but that's not the way to live life, right? Um, so
definitely.
I definitely am not somebody who gives people answers, because I don't believe any human being can give me truth. I look for great questions that put me on the journey of understanding, and just really going down that pathway. So I think a lot of people in the personal development world and entrepreneurship are seeking answers from gurus, influencers, and other people. When all of our answers are already here, we just got to connect in and up and find out that information for ourselves.
Yeah, well, I love that you brought it up because a lot of people really don't understand that it's really within us when we
Yeah.
ask questions. Uh, for example, when I was also in a low peak, the place that what helped me, the vehicle, if you will, it was journal. Really
Yeah.
go deep as much as you can.
Powerful.
And you've been through a lot of shit. So how did you get up from there? What made you keep on going?
I spent a lot of time reverse engineering some of that stuff, and I can tell you that I in the process of going through those things, I'm thankful that many times I was alone. I felt myself in this place where I talk to people about this all the time. When you're in the middle of an up level and a major paradigm shift, you're shedding old beliefs that no longer serve you, and you're going to your highest level purpose. You generally experience a lot of what we call attacks, I should say, in your relationships, in your finances, and your personal health. And, oftentimes it's because I always say we need to get from here into here. And so my
Mhm.
courses I'm working with is Journey to the Heart, is unlearning a lot of the programming that we've had in our lives of, things like you have to go to school and get good grades. And then if you get good grades, you can go out into the world and
Yeah,
get a good job and then retire in 40 years here in the US. I remember a time when six figures in the corporate world was like, I made it, I'm somebody. Um, and so I had to unlearn, and I'm glad you said journaling, because that was the first thing that I did. It was getting quiet and still, which we don't do nowadays. I think it
yeah,
was Blaise Pascal said that. He said, man's main struggle is that we don't have the ability to sit quietly with ourselves. And how do we when
quietly
we
and
when
honestly.
exactly? And how do we do that when we have phones and we have all these different things? And I'm thankful that I was in these positions, and I say that your journal and your pen is like your shield and your sword. That's where the work is done.
Definitely.
And as you start writing, you begin to become more thoughtful. And we know, James Allen and Napoleon Hill talk about, as a man thinketh, and thoughts become things. And I began to trace back. The first step I always talk about is we need to trace back major things in our lives that we experienced that weren't, that we think were where our struggle was. And you can begin to understand what you were thinking, what you were feeling, and it correlating with your experiences. And when you
Mhm.
learn that, what's interesting is, and you learn about the law of attraction, I know it's very commercialized. There's so many other
Yeah,
laws that we talk about, but when you start to realize those things, the first step is like, oh shit, I'm the common denominator. I caused this, right?
yeah.
And so the first
And we
step,
don't want to be responsible. We want to blame
right,
everyone.
right, because we're graded from kids, like all the way from parenting. We learn all of our beliefs from 0 to 7. We know about money, we know about sex, we know about relationships, we know about power, we know about everything from the time we're 7 years old before we understand death. And then
Yeah.
we meet other people who are experiencing the same thing. And so we begin to solidify our belief systems. So the first step is doing the logical work before we can get to the soulful work. which is the brain only finds what you tell it to find. It's a problem solving device, but we have these subconscious beliefs that unless we get quiet, we can't even touch. Um, and that's where I like to do the work with clients and stuff like that, because they're in this place where they just can't see what they can't see, because their subconscious will only allow you to experience what you know through a bias, right?
Yeah.
So the main question I ask people to get started is, what would it be like if you were able to see things for what they are versus how you wish them to be?
Mhm.
And that's a powerful question. So
It
I
is.
began to just ask myself the questions, and then I turned all of my curses, so to speak, into blessings. And how did this work for me? So on paper, it looked like, man, I experienced the loss of my mom, the cancer. I was adopted within my family dynamics. We went from having lots of money when I was a little guy to being on food stamps when I was in high school, to my brother being in jail. And I started looking at all these things, and I said, man, how did these things serve me? And on paper, I began to do what I call exposing, which is the limiting beliefs, and then illuminating, which is I need to frame that in a way for my mind of a way that it served me. Because if it didn't serve me, I need to get rid of it. That's our personal ability to do so. We don't need anybody's permission to do that. And some people
Yeah,
say, well, like,
instead of asking why it happened to me, you
right,
ask.
why did it happen for me? Right.
Hmm.
And so when you begin to start doing that work, and it's not instantaneous, you're talking about I'm on that journey of 3 years worth of work. I'm 33 now, going on 34. But you're able, once you understand these techniques and these ideas, you can put 20, 30 years worth of work into 3 years, because we're really getting ourselves back into the alignment of what our purpose was when we were born here, and getting rid of everyone else's judgments, concerns, or cares in our lives. And we're able to see things for what they are. And then the next step, really at the high level, is beginning to use meditation as like the practice to seek alignment, take action, and to really formulate your plans instead of doing it under your own will, and surrendering in meditation as well, instead of really forcefully trying to do things.
Nice. And what kind of tool can you suggest to our listener to start with?
Yeah, so I think a journal, right? Journal would be one of the first things to start with. If you don't, if your stuff is kind of all over the place, what I ask people
Hmm.
this is, if I ask to see the journal that tells me about your life and where you're going and what you believe, would you be able to hand it to me? And a lot of people say no, and that was the same way. My big thing is I want to meet people where they're at. I don't want to intimidate. I don't want to pontificate. I don't want to come across like, oh, he's just really enlightened. And so I really want to bridge the gap between where somebody is and where they can possibly go, because I don't have the answers. They do.
Yeah.
So journal first, and begin there. And I would say, write down, if you want to get simple, because this is the work we do over some courses that I do for 8 weeks. The first step really is in your finances, in your relationships of all kinds, and your legacy, your big picture purpose. Write down 10 things, and we say this very simply: 10 things that suck, right? 10 things that suck in those areas,
Okay.
and begin to
Hmm.
experience that and say to yourself, how do I feel? Right? Emotion, not
Hmm.
feeling up here, right? Not what other people want
Hmm.
you to feel, what you feel.
Like deep
And
inside.
then,
Hmm.
exactly, sit still. And then the next step is begin to think of the exact opposite of what that feeling would be and that experience, and write it down. It's that simple. That starts you on the journey. And that's the first step. And so begin to feel into that. And every single time those feelings come up of what sucks, begin to feel into what you're desiring, what you really truly want. Because the first question is, what do you want? And that's a great way to answer that question. And spend time on that for the next 7 to 10 days. Spend some time in the morning when you wake up, shelter that time, protect it as if it's like you'll die otherwise, and do it first thing in the morning and right before you go to bed, and begin to share that with other people. Find other people that are doing the same kind of work, because the more we express it, the better it's going to be, and start to create in our lives. And that's really one of the first steps that we can do.
Bam! I think we can wrap it up. That's amazing. I really love that, because, like you said, questions, that's the thing to progress.
Yeah.
When we ask lousy questions, we get lousy answers. Why it
Yeah.
happened to me? You will
Yeah.
get lousy answer. You will
Why am
ask
I so
what I
bad with
can do
money?
with
Why
it.
why am I not lovable? Why am I not worthy?
Yeah.
All these questions, right?
Or if you ask why I'm worthy,
Yeah.
you will start to find questions for that.
Yeah. You know,
And
what
I
would it
love
look
that.
like for me to be fully expressed? What would it look like to create abundance in my life just based on who I am? Don't have to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. I don't have to be a coach. I don't have to be any of these things. Because if you ask me who I am, you know, my answer is really Chris. You know what I mean? That's
Simple as that.
and that's enough for me. You know,
Yeah.
that's enough.
Because it starts with loving yourself and really
Yes,
accepting yourself before you accept others.
exactly.
That's how you can
You
help
can't give what you
others.
don't have, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we are doing. Like you said before, as mentors, we do actually mirror, like a mirror to other people, because
Mm,
the answer is within them, not with
hmm.
us. We can
Yeah.
give the tools, we can provide the help, but the answers is there within them.
You know, some of the stuff because I have some group courses that are kind of intro, and then I have some high level stuff and one-to-one clients. And one of the things I say to people is we start with equipping, which is doing the work on the conscious subconscious mind and learning how to reframe these statements. And we go through the four phases of learning from I'm sure you guys have heard this, from unconscious incompetency to you know, conscious incompetency, where you know you just don't know what you just don't know, to now you're
Yeah.
aware, and then we go right into that phase. There's a step in between going into conscious competency, which is where the work is, which is discernment. It's this knowingness, right? So some people on here may have walked into a room and you felt something that just didn't feel right, or it felt great, or you may see visions. You might have full blown movie scenes that go off in your mind, or you get these ideas that you think aren't yours. And then you also have this incredible, like maybe song stuck in your head. You know, these are
Mhm.
spiritual giftings that you have that we don't talk about, that allow you to sense things that we otherwise can't see or feel or taste with our five senses.
Yeah.
And we begin to help people trust that, because I always say this: in the work that we do, we might be talking about something really powerful. And so it might sit well with you logically. And you're like, man, I got to get
Mhm.
this divorce done. I got to file bankruptcy. I got to, you know, tell this partner of mine to fly a kite. But I'm like, sit with it for 48 hours and let your
Yeah.
discernment come in, because I don't have the answer. And the whole thing is, I'm not going to judge my success based on how many people hire me and keep me. It's how many people
Yeah.
that I can get to their truth and they begin to walk along with me and go as far as you want to go, so that we can open more people up to this concept of purpose. Because I think there's so many people that are wandering around looking for the answers from people who just don't have them.
Yeah.
Um, and it's insane. You know, we're more connected than ever, but we're not connecting from a real level. Even down to this question of like, Eden, how can I add value to you? Nowadays we're still looking for reciprocation, even if we're leading with quote unquote service. It's like, what
Yeah.
would it look like to bring value without expectation of anything in return, you know?
Yeah. That's the part of loving and really give, and not just accepting all the time, like money, 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 money.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I think we both have been there when we were just seeking out for the money. That's miserable
Yeah.
pathway to go in. For example, I know people that have Lamborghinis and they hate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is that worth
And
it?
they
I
genuinely
don't think
hate
so.
life in a way. I mean, I've met people who have an eight
Yeah.
figure net worth who we had a great conversation at their house, and you know, a few drinks in, they're telling me they had a gun in their mouth at one point in time because you know they have no relationship with their kids. They're going through a nasty divorce. They don't know who they are, especially us as men too, right? There's this whole
Yeah.
concept of you have to be powerful in conquest, but man, we don't get
Hmm.
taught any kind of emotional intelligence or emotional
Yeah.
development at all. And I think
Because
that's,
as men, we keep people from where we're when we are little.
yeah,
Don't be emotional. You gotta be a
yeah,
man.
you
Don't
gotta
show
suffer in
emotion.
silence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I judge my success in my relationships with the guys in my life by how many that say we love each other. You know what I mean? Like when we get off the phone, it's like, I
Nice.
love you. It's totally fine. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you know, it's awesome.
That's part of life, to really accepting one another and love
Yeah.
one another. There's nothing wrong about that.
Yeah.
Show emotion, nothing wrong about it. Actually,
Right.
it makes us more strong, because
100%.
when we are vulnerable, we're sharing what our thoughts, we're sharing our emotion. It's kind of, we are more strong. It shows this,
Yeah.
that the power we have and not the weaknesses we have. When we are
100%.
shutting down, we kind of killing ourselves in a way, if you will.
Yeah, we all want connection, right? That's where that whole intentional
Yeah.
connector thing came from, because I've always desired connection. And I think one of the big myths that gets talked about, and I think it was actually in one of the groups that we met in, was this conversation about introversion and extroversion.
Hmm.
This idea that I meet some people who are like, man, I really want to go do this, but I'm an introvert, and I'll ask them, what their definition of that is, and they're like, well, I'm just really shy. And I was like,
Yeah.
introversion and extroversion is where we get our energy from. Has nothing to do with
Hmm.
shyness. That's really just relational skills that you can learn if you find yourself in a place where you're excited to do what you're
Definitely.
doing. So, I strongly urge people to take a look at, how do you get your energy as an extrovert. I want to be around people, and I want to enjoy conversation. And I'm always like, what's next? Where are we going? What are we doing? If you're an introvert, you might like to recharge by sitting back with a book, and really just enjoying time to yourself. But you have to be able to get out there and connect with people.
Of
And
course.
more so than what do you do for a living, more so what do you live to do? And if you can answer that question and both are the same, then man, you're really on track.
Definitely. I love what you said right now, because a lot of people shut down, especially when you're becoming an entrepreneur. You're kind of in your own way, you're kind of alone, if you will.
Yeah.
But actually, if you connect with people and you go online and meet people, then
Yeah.
you even get faster growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you never collaboration. I used to be, and people probably have heard this before. It's like, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself, and it really comes from a
So,
place of scarcity, right? So scarcity and
mhm,
abundance was a major mindset shift for me. And so I just simply look at it like abundance is playing all out to win, and scarcity is playing not to lose, and
mhm,
everywhere in your life, and so people think of manifestation and the law of attraction as only when major events happen, but manifestation and law of attraction is happening whether you're participating thoughtfully or not. you know as we
mhm.
did this interview, this was manifestation. It was an idea that came through, and here we go. And it's like, people read Think and Grow Rich, and they don't
Yeah.
think about where this come from, who was Napoleon Hill's major mentors, and go backwards, and then understand that the Think and Grow Rich that we read today is not the real version of Think and Grow Rich. It
Yeah.
was Laws of Success, and that the word vibration was edited out of Think and Grow Rich for over 80 years.
Hmm.
And why is that, right? So you begin to go on this journey of understanding that you just get more of the big picture. And in the process, I like to say it like, you have to understand that you're both the drop and the ocean, you know?
Yeah.
So as we connect, we begin to see ourselves for who we are, and then how we connect in relation to our environment, and realize how powerful we uniquely are. But we can be even more powerful, not forceful, two different things. Power is like
Mhm.
love, peace, enlightenment, joy, right? If you want to change your life, find more ways to find joy in your day-to-day life all day long, right?
Mhm.
Incorporate that in there. I see so many entrepreneurs get started, and they're like, I'm going to habits list, and I'm going to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, listen, I don't like getting up at 5:30 in the morning, you know, you know. So begin to start finding ways to bring yourself joy. Music is a great way to get yourself mindset shifted right away. Think about what you're listening to.
Definitely.
Move your body, and what you're creating as an entrepreneur. Realize that you can create whatever you want. What somebody else is doing may not be what you need, but sometimes we want to talk about struggle and grind because we want to seem valuable because we're able to overcome the struggle. But what if there was no struggle? What if it was like ease? What if it was joyful? What if because I mean, I'm having more fun now than I've ever had in my entire life, and I'm working my butt off, you know what I mean? But it's joyful, you know what I mean?
Definitely familiar.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. That's why we connected in a big way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And you're right. Music had a very big influence. I remember when I was a kid, I
Yeah.
was used to listen to a lot of metal and hard rock
Oh yeah,
bands.
yeah,
I still love rock, but
yeah,
a lot of the rock materials have a lot of the lyrics kind of put you down,
yeah,
because it's I lost that, I lost that, the word sucks,
yeah,
yada
yeah.
yada.
It's
And
the
that doesn't
intention, right?
help you to shift the mind to
Yeah,
the better place. So like you said, putting
Yep.
up some good music. For example, the first thing when I'm doing in the morning routine is waking up, put a bit of music, but good, and dance a bit, shake it up the body, because motion create emotion,
Yep.
and getting into that vibe. And I
Love it.
love that you brought it up.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite bands of all time still is the Deftones. You know what I mean? And so I listen to that stuff, and it's just like it gets my mind open and expanded. And then you find some stuff, and I had a colleague do this at our retreat this weekend, and she just had us literally, if you sit there for a second and do it with a friend of yours, and find a few songs that convey an emotion that you feel, and literally just say zero expectations, don't think at all, don't try to label this, and put your hands on your heart and literally sit back and close your eyes and play some music for them and allow yourself to experience the emotions. I mean, she played the first song and I lost it. Like I was just bawling. And and it was healthy because I needed to open that space up for what was to come because we were doing some meditation work later. And so um I think that's super important, man. I think that connection piece is so awesome. Music connects us in a way that we can't speak about.
Definitely. It
Yeah, man.
connects us all. That's
Yeah.
so amazing. So, Chris, how exactly did you set up your business?
Yeah. So, first thing was, I always believe that great coaches work with great coaches too. So
Hmm.
I'm thankful that my girlfriend is actually a phenomenal coach, and she actually, she helped me get kind of like, I guess, the infrastructure, more the tactics and strategy stuff in place, and nothing fancy. I mean, I created my website back in October. I spent $250 on it, and I bootstrapped it myself. And I really just started with an idea. How do I want somebody to feel from what I'm doing? How do I want to feel from that as well? And what conveys the message, and the intentional connector was born because I didn't want it to be just my coaching business. My vision for what I'm doing is an event driven platform internationally, large event space, because we need to get this information out to the masses. And my big purpose is to shift collective consciousness in a positive way. So
Hmm.
over the course of the last 2 years, I leveraged Facebook as a way to document the journey, so to speak. And when I tell people about Facebook Live who are kind of like in a zone of like, what do I share? I don't know what to do or say. I really
Yeah,
just spoke to myself on Facebook Live and people started watching it.
yeah,
And
that's part of the way to share the journey.
yeah.
Hmm.
And so, I learned this idea of I always start my Facebook Lives the same way I start everything. And I say, listen, I am not an expert in anything else but my experience. Doctors and lawyers are just practicing, and I'm just here to share with you my expertise in my life. You know what I mean? And if it resonates with you, great. I'm not worried about engagement or viewership or anything else because the right people will be there. And every time I've thought about that and I got intentional first, that's why we talk about intentional connector. I always think about what do I want out of this experience first. And every single time I've done that, I've gotten out of it what I wanted to. And
Nice.
so the idea was I knew that I wanted to work in a group setting and one to one. I wasn't worried about scaling. I wasn't worried about any of this stuff. I focused on the feeling of what I wanted to experience, and I stayed in alignment with what my purpose was. I did a lot of the internal work first, and then we started launching, and I literally didn't get taught any of this stuff. It's very intuitive, meaning it's a representation of my personal connection to self and my divine connection. We're going to go there for a second. Because I mean, how connected we are, we get this gift, but I literally just created great relationships for the last 2, 3 years, and I never asked anything. And when I launched my course, Journey to the Heart, the second version of it, the first time I launched, I was timid because I was in my head about who's going to judge, who's going to think this and everything else. You're not successful. You're not a millionaire. How can you coach? And then I said to myself, I'm not teaching anybody how to be a millionaire. I'm not taking anybody anywhere I've never been. So what are we focused on here? It's intention. Let's make this happen. And my belief is this, is that my goal is to create raving fans, not followers. Meaning I want
Definitely.
them to have an experience that I don't care how much they pay, what happens. In fact, I changed my pricing structure for that course that I launched a second time. And I said, if you have an abundance block or problems with money, that's one of my main things. Let me know because this information is important and I'll work with you. And we did. And so we opened it up to 20 people. We ended up with 25, 19 I've never met personally for 8 weeks. And we're just wrapping up. And it's been an exceptional journey. And then, I don't have any process for how I vet one to one clients. They were people that were a byproduct of my client avatar that I have. I can share with people how to
Hmm.
find your soul match client or ideal client. You should always have that as an entrepreneur, um,
Definitely.
because some
Without
people
the
are
ideal
so,
client, you can get to the clients themselves.
or you take on clients because of money and you find yourself miserable
Yeah.
and you're not serving anybody, right? So being able to do that was really, really important. So I lead with service first. So my business is simple. It's a reflection of who I am. There's no business plan, there's
Nice.
no budget, there's no nothing. It literally is in my calling, targets that I'm looking to achieve personally. There are milestones for me, and then
Hmm.
literally leading with the raving fan mentality and creating that loyalty and building relationships. I
Love
refer
it.
constantly to other people. So, I mean, I'm as abundant as it gets. I'm open too. I collaborate as much as possible.
I really love it. That's so amazing. You're so right. Everything that you said right now about the ideal client, about getting that passion, really help one another. That's what it's meaning about. And I see that Rocky had a question here for us,
Yeah.
but we will get to the question in the end. So people, if you have more questions, you're welcome to lay them down, and we will go to it in the end of the interview.
Yeah.
So, Chris,
Yeah.
what made you move to that area, and what habit helped you to maintain it?
Yeah. So I got into coaching really because I felt like people were getting a lot of wrong information. And I was meeting a lot of people. Before that, I was an entrepreneur and I was in sales. You know, I had teams. I have a team in another business of mine that's about 400 plus in about 36 different states. And I saw the difference was a lot of people were focusing in on their results in their vehicle. Now, the vehicle is like how they bring money in. How do they
Hmm.
deliver something to the market? And these were people of all different kinds, all volunteer, commission only environment. And they were all having the same problem, which was they never looked at how the vehicle was going to serve them. They just wanted to feel something from the vehicle. And so they weren't getting the result. And so they gave up and they struggled and they lost identity. And so I said, what can I do to help people learn the things that I've learned as well? Not because I want them to follow me, but because I think it might offer them some value and see where it goes. And
Hmm.
then I never thought of labeling as coaching or anything else. I just kind of turned that into it. But then I had to make the shift of if I need people to find the information, I need to give them something that they can identify with. And so that's where the titles come from, right?
Hmm.
Because the thing is if somebody says to you, like, what do you do for a living? And you tell them right away, they automatically pick up a subconscious belief and they either know or they don't know when they might not know anything. They're just like, don't sell me anything, right? So,
Yeah,
um, the habit was really putting people before me. Not in terms of how I serve myself, because I meet my own
yeah.
needs, but really listening more than talking, way more than talking.
Hmm.
So that habit was just getting really reflective and really, really focused in on emotion over tactics. That's a huge thing that we're missing right now is that people want to
Yeah,
start funnels, they want to start campaigns, they want to start email lists when they get started. If you can't go to your list of warm contacts and genuinely start a business, then you might want to rethink where you're at in your relationships.
yeah, because everything is about relationships.
Yeah,
It's true what you said, not to
yeah,
like give up yourself, but really give to the people, really be with them, really be
yeah,
for them,
yeah,
because
100%.
it's all about relationship, relationship, relationship.
And I think you said this earlier, but if you want to know the status of your relationship, find out how you feel about yourself. What's the relationship to yourself? Because everyone reflects who you are, right? So within, so without, so above, so below. And that's really, my thought process is I never meet a stranger because I love people and I know myself. So I know you and I could probably talk for an hour and get and pick it up, no problem. Because, we
Yeah,
know who we are.
that's true. Because, like you said, if you don't listen to yourself, how can you listen to the other? And it's
Exactly.
not just in business, also in relationship. If you don't listen to your spouse,
Yeah.
how can you even think about helping one another?
Yeah.
First, start with yourself, listen to yourself. And that goes back what we said before earlier, the journal. You start to
Yeah.
listen to yourself, see your
Bingo.
thoughts, understanding yourself, and then building that relationship with your spouse, with your clients, with your prospects.
Yeah. So so right on. Absolutely.
So,
Love
Chris,
it.
how do you keep momentum and being the best version of yourself? What keeps you driven?
That's a great question. You know, I used to be like very regimented as an entrepreneur of I had a very strict morning routine. I used to train on stages about it, and it was get up in the morning at 6. First thing I did was I put headphones in and listen to something positive. I would listen to something overnight. I would go right into my affirmations. I would do a quick. Am I sideways on your side because I am on mine?
No, no, you're perfectly fine on my side.
I think I need to get rid of the app and re-download when we finish.
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay, so
you asked a question about momentum, right?
yeah, yeah,
Jesus.
the question is how do you keep momentum and being driven?
Oh man.
Well,
So that's
yeah,
a great
shit
question.
happens like that.
Yeah. So, what I was saying was I used to train on this a lot, like when I was an entrepreneur and stuff like that, and focusing on personal development because I had these really great habits, and it was getting up at 6:30 in the morning or 6 in the morning. It was affirmation. It was, journaling on gratitude. It was, I would do push-ups, sit-ups, and air squats, and I would read, a chapter of a book. And it was really good because I
Mhm.
read like 60 books in a year or something like that. But what I found
Nice.
what I found was it wasn't doing anything else. It was just positive mental attitude stuff. And so you can't really positive mental attitude bad stuff too. You have to address what's on your heart, right? So
Mhm.
the momentum piece really comes from joy. And it really is about finding joy in what I'm doing. And these kind of conversations, knowing that we're doing the work that's purposeful, you don't lose any energy from it. You just continue to really focus. And I'll be honest with you, like my relationships are very important to me. I really spend time with people who fill me up and help me feel great. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, because it's starting with joy, starting with really enjoy the life and what we do. Otherwise, it's all collapse. No matter what we do, if it's a morning routine, some other habits. If we do it like, reading for the affirmation like that, I love myself.
Yeah, I'm
Like
so happy and grateful now that I'm
that.
not broke. I am so happy and
I'm so
grateful that I'm not
happy.
broke.
That doesn't work like that.
I'll tell you what also drives me a big way, and I encourage people to do this, but um, there's an exercise I do with some folks, and it was given to me. I won't take credit for it, but it was envision your life 5 years from now. However, you can only do it in 5 sentences. And it has to be because 5 sentences is enough, but people want to go long because they're kind of figuring out what they want because we think we're going to be judged or graded on it. But allow your mind to work and focus in on exactly what you want and begin to give that life every single day. Find a small detail about it that you want to go into. Who are you waking up to? Where are you? How does it feel? How do you look? How do you feel? Um, I went from this idea of where I was to seeing my kids. And I don't have kids now, but it was such a beautiful thing because somebody said to me, what would it feel like to have people in your life talk about you to your children without you having to say what you did? And I said to I got emotional about that. And we talk about the why, and I think the why is really fluffy, but
Mhm.
that would be the deep purpose. That's like the real deal kind of thing. And I think that's where we need to get to.
Right on. So true, and you hit that spot. So, what was the biggest struggle you experienced, and how did you overcome it?
It sounds cliche, but my biggest struggle was me. It was the belief
Mhm.
that I had to have. And also, since I am a deeply connected person, I found myself looking for answers around me a lot. And so the thing about purpose is that it's executed when you make the decision solitarily by yourself, and then you start collaborating. But when you start asking people about your purpose, you're on the wrong track. The other thing that happened for me, and I think this happens for a lot of people, is when you learn about like the law of attraction and how your thoughts become
Yeah.
things, you begin to go down the negative spiral of, oh shit, I had a bad thought. I don't want that to manifest. So It's really being consistently purposeful to figuring out what am I thinking, and then sit with it for a second. Don't get distracted and deal with why am I feeling this way? Where did this come from? So you want to create that new pattern as you go. And so my biggest struggle, honestly, and also this, my story was a lot of adversity and a lot of struggle. And so I see this happen a lot, and it was for me as well, where we tell a story about adversity and struggle because we want to
Yeah.
seem valuable. What would it be like if we didn't have to have that? So I changed my story to really talk about here's how I'm going after joy and purpose versus if you put me into the valley, I'll lead. If you throw me to the wolves, I'll come back as the leader of the pack. Like all that nonsense, right? And I stopped talking as much. I was listening because a lion doesn't have to say it's a lion, right? It just is.
Yeah.
So why? Why do we need to react? Why do we need to focus on explaining? Like, what would it be like if you didn't have to explain yourself to people?
Then you will truly love yourself. Then you will
Yeah,
enjoy everything you do because you don't think about the judgment of others.
yeah, 100%, man.
I really love that, and thank you for sharing that because it really comes from within us. Like you said, if you
Yeah,
like all the time judge yourself, you're your biggest enemy, or you can be your best friend.
100%. And if you can't cheerlead you, who's going to cheerlead you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
What is your biggest struggle your audience experience?
Number one is belief that they can't have everything that they desire,
Hmm.
you know, and they don't believe that they have a choice. They still think that they're just not worthy of success. They count themselves out because they're just like, it sounds good for you, but for me, it's just not the same. So
Yeah.
it's really helping people and telling stories. And I think my gift is really making it simple because I always say, listen, I'm a college dropout, keep it simple. If I can't explain it to a third grader, then I'm not going to explain it. So because the
It's all
brain wants
simplicity.
wants
It's
technical,
all
technical sounds
simplicity.
expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
When it's like you said, technical and it's unexpensive, but people tend to walk away from that.
Yeah, because once you find out it's simple, you get mad at yourself too. But then you have to go, further beyond that and realize that it really is that simple. It's amazing. It's like when a limiting belief comes up for me, because they still happen. Like I want people to realize as you grow, you continue to experience at a higher level, like more stuff that comes up. And I just laugh now. And I used to get upset and be like off course for like a week, and then it was a day, and then it was an hour, and now it comes up, and it's like, I can't believe that mother effer is in there. Let me write that down real quick. Let me work through this so I can get rid of it. You know what I mean? It's actually fun to do because I'm like, I'm not wrong. I'm not broken. I just need to get this thing out of here and
Yeah.
pull the weed out. You know what I mean? Like Tony Robbins says, don't ignore the weed. Get to the root of the weed and pull it out. And that's really what we do.
Yeah. And love
Yeah.
that guy. He has a lot of amazing stuff. Tony
Yeah.
Robbins.
Yeah. 100%, man.
So, if we can go back a bit, how did you all the time get out from those dark moments when what happened with your mom, with what
Yeah.
happened when you got broke, marriage? Because a lot of people tend to, fold
Yeah.
and get inside of them and say, what happened to me? And that's it. They stay there for years and years.
Yeah. And I think that's, the lesson is where the value is. And I think, when my mom passed away, that was obviously a huge deal, for me because that was my family. So, I experienced some homelessness and some other stuff as well. And honestly, I wasn't mad at any other thing than I felt like I had something to do here, but I didn't know how to do it. And I was told I had a lot of potential, but nobody gave me a plan. And I was like, why are people succeeding and I'm not? Um, I began to, like we say, the time between seeing it for what it is versus it happening to you, began to shorten and shorten and shorten. And so it was really my divorce when it happened. And I asked myself the question, um, you know, what is my role in all of this? What did I do?
Mm.
Because at one time you take accountability, but it also shows you your power too, because you are an active participant, whether you realize it or not. And then I said to myself, you know, I've experienced what I don't want. What do I want? And so going into that process of really you can do two things. You can put a lot of energy and focus into I'm broke, I'm experiencing this nasty thing. But what
Mhm.
if you got nothing to lose, why not really focus in on dreaming and thinking big? Like dreaming for me is such a key part. People say dreamers are you can't just dream. I beg to differ. Dreamers are the people who use their imagination and are creating their reality. And dreaming and being able to sit with those thoughts and to laugh and be joyful even when things were tough was really, really important for me. The other thing was you begin to see who's around you. People might have people in their life right now that point problems out to you. They're like, hey, by the way, that's a problem. This is a problem. And they're trying to show you where the problems are. It's like, I don't need anyone else to tell me what's wrong. I know what's wrong. I need people who are going to help me like collaborate and find a
Yeah,
better way of going. And as I started focusing in on that, like I have non-negotiables and pillars for my relationships that I never compromise. And so now it's like those people in my life, we begin to realize that we just build each other back up, and that's really, really important.
first of all, thank you for sharing that with us. What was there that can you share with our audience that they can deal in those dark moments?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is darkness has to happen. There has to be contrast, and I think that doing
Hmm.
work in the shadow is extremely important because a lot of people want to say love and light and good things, but if you can deal with your shadow and realize that every time you judge or something happens, we're in our shadow, um, that you are being gifted with a lesson that's going to help you move into another area of life that you didn't even know you were going to. The biggest thing from a logical standpoint is that when I woke up in Texas and I had no money or anything else, and I love that you asked this question more specifically, is I said to myself, I don't have a lot of money, but what do I have? I have a lot of time. And when I heard about the word value, I said, how do I define value? What kind of value can I bring to other people? Well, I can bring time, I can bring connection, I can bring relationship, I can bring
Hmm.
resources. The intentional connector was born out of this idea that I began to go to people and ask them about their story. I got more interested in people who are going through darker times than I was, and I began to figure out a way to connect with them. And I would ask them what they genuinely needed or wanted, and not what they wanted for their business, what they wanted. And I would go find it and connect them together. And that brought me a lot of joy. The other thing was in my life, here's what I could do is that I could get up and I could brush my teeth. And then what could I do next? And it was literally one step after another step after another step, not going to social media, not doing anything distracting, because we have a unique capability of momentum. Brush your teeth, put some great clothes on. When you look good, you feel good. Do a little workout. You know what I mean? These things sound simplistic and they're like, oh, well, it's like, well, you also have to deal with your own bullshit of getting out of your own way too. Right? Because sometimes
Yeah,
we want to sit in it to feel better, but you're not going to. And nobody's going to save you, right?
exactly.
You have to participate in your own rescue.
Of
And
course.
then the next phase is, what are you reading? A library card costs nothing. You can go to the library and spend some time there. Who are you spending time around? And then get thoughtful, man. That's when you start writing down the things that you want and begin, no matter what, to start putting some emphasis and emotion into it. And at first, it's going to feel like, oh, I'm so happy and grateful for. But the more you do it and you start seeing it come into fruition, you're going to start realizing how powerful you really are.
Definitely.
Yeah. Don't let people who are making quote unquote millions of dollars online be the thing that you're striving to be because you have no idea what they are and what they're doing.
And you don't know where they start off, what they did to get there. You don't know what's going on in their
Yeah.
daily routine. You can't compare because when we compare ourselves to one another, to this mentor is going well, he's doing a lot of money and I don't, well, it happened to me, blah, blah, blah. Then you start a comparison. You start to ask yourself lousy question like, why it happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And then your energy drop.
Yeah.
Then you don't have the power to continue, then you don't really have something to go for and you don't have
Yeah.
the joy.
The
And
the number one non-negotiable for me every single day now is meditation without a doubt.
exactly.
It is an absolute non-negotiable and I do it multiple times throughout the day. I got rid of all mentors because, again, there's nothing I really want to learn from the details of someone else's life. Success principles are different than details, big picture stuff. Now it's time for me to learn what, because I hear a lot of people say, my mentor says, or so and so says this or anything like that.
Yeah,
That's great, but what do you believe? What is your existence about?
exactly. When it's your values, when it's your core beliefs, then it's starting to move.
Yeah,
Of course,
it
mentors
costs you
help you to
nothing.
get there, but you
Yeah,
don't need to have their values. You need to have your values.
yeah, and meditation costs you nothing. You know,
You got to love technology, aren't you?
and that's it, man. That's it.
So what I say is that I love that you brought up the library concept. Go and read some books for free. Also, you have Google. You can get much more places, and also you don't even really have to go anywhere. You have audiobooks. You can listen them on the way while you do the dishes, while you're on the car, getting tons of books while you're doing the normal things on a daily basis.
100%.
And I also want to ask you, can you share with us someone that inspired you to get into that and keep you going
Into what exactly?
into the business and inspired you
Oh yeah,
on your daily basis?
yeah. I'm extremely inspired by the people I keep around me. I think my partner, my girlfriend being one daily, we believe in each other in a big way. And that was very intentional. I mean, if you look in my notebook, I everything that she is exactly written down in my journal. So
Mhm.
that's manifestation. I think, I have two very close friends of mine that are doing different things. And I think that's also important to have people around you that might be doing something different than you are so that there's no kind of conflict or anything like that. But I'm a very self-driven person because I'm in pursuit of my potential in a big way, and I think those people around me really, again, just the idea that they believe in me because I believe in me too is very very important. Um, and I also have a very close connection with God, right? I just developed that. I would say 6 7 months ago. I was always there, but I would say that the universe, something had to create the universe, and so I meditate, and that's a big part of my process is that connection piece.
Nice. That's amazing, man. And we're getting to the end of the interview, and I want to ask you if you can go back in time, what advice will you give to your younger self?
Keep dreaming and dream bigger. And if anything, don't allow yourself to be the male intimidated, you know, guy who avoided meditation for as long as you did. Because I avoided it for a long time because it was ego driven. And just know that it's on the way.
Mhm. Nice. Love it, man. That's amazing. And can you also share with us if you had one chance to deliver the one message that will stay written in history, what will it be?
Mm. Well, I think that the biggest message in history is we are made for love. The more you can proliferate love, the better this world will be.
Nice. So deep, so true.
Yeah.
Because again, when we love ourselves, when we give love, then the whole world getting back to a better place. We
Yeah.
can actually influence others.
Hmm.
And Chris, can you share with us how can people get to know you?
Yeah,
How can they get to you?
that's a great
Mhm.
question. So Facebook is a great way. Just Chris Delaney. My page there has a ton of content that I've done throughout time. And then my website is intentionalconnector.com. I know you're going to link that. I also have a guide that I'm going to offer to the audience as a gift as well that has like my contact and stuff in there too. It's a guide that we use throughout my course on how to create, use meditation as more than just a feeling good thing to really begin to open it up as a way to expand, your life, your business, everything as a source. Um, and those are the two best ways. And then you can always Facebook message me as well. I go through those once or twice a day. Um,
Nice.
and that's it, man.
Amazing. And we already have all your links in the post. So people just go to Chris Ask him what you want, how can he help you, and
Yeah.
if you have more questions to him. And one more question about Rocky that asked here, how to control extreme emotion in hard situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was an extremely reactive person for a long time. Part of it was this emotion because I used to have this story of people just didn't know me and what I'd gone through. And um, one of the things, obviously, that helps out tremendously now that I would share with you is meditation, because getting thoughtful is a big part of it. And in that guide, it goes through like, okay, meditation might not be something that you're used to right now. How can I begin to go down the journey of like, one, making it simple, two, making it something I can progress in? You're never going to do it right or wrong when you meditate. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's going to help you connect deeply. And it takes time. And I think that simple equation, and I think Jack Canfield wrote about it before, that E plus R equals O, right? The event plus the response equals the outcome. You can't control the event. The events will happen. And the
Yeah.
outcome is a direct result of our personal reaction. So beginning to think about how you want to show up in the world and writing about it. How do you want your day to go? In the morning, write your intentions down. How do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to feel? If you have meetings and stuff like that, how do you want to be? Do you want to be postured? Do you want to be open? Do you want to be transparent? Do you want to be do you want to be humble? You'll begin to start experiencing these emotions throughout the day and these experiences. And then the more you open up your meditative practice, you're going to find yourself realizing that we operate from extreme emotion when we don't feel like we have personal power, right? So I strongly encourage you to go on the journey of understanding that and asking that question in your meditation as well. Like, how can I begin to show up very easy, very consistently? Because we don't have to push, push, push. You know what I mean?
Sometimes we need to let go.
Just be like water, man. Rocks are patient, or rocks are strong, but water's patient, right? And I think, if we look back on things, if we're more patient, then we start to get exactly what we want.
Nice. And what kind of meditation can you suggest to him?
Meditation is kind of like a universal thing for me. Personally, I know there's all kinds. Again, I'm not a guru on
Yeah.
this. It's just something that's very deep for me. But, I started meditating 5 minutes a day, and it was literally sitting here, hands on my legs, and just deep breathing. And as all the shit came into my mind, I began to focus on my breath, and I would do breathing exercises, and I would do 7 seconds in, 5 seconds hold, 7 seconds
Mhm.
out, 7 seconds in, 5, 7 out. And so that progressed into guided meditations online. Wayne Dyer does some great guided meditations, Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, you have good meditation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Vishen Lakhiani, who started Mind Valley Academy, is a guy I follow as well. He has a great 6-phase guided meditation that is 20 minutes long, and it's wonderful. And then as you get comfortable, you begin to find what your flavor of ice cream is. You know what I mean? You find out what you like.
What you're
I be
connecting more and what you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
intentional meditation for me is getting to a point where I'm in the meditative state, and I begin to ask questions, either out loud or in my mind, and receive answers from it. And that's a big part of my day-to-day practice. I don't do anything without that kind of meditation. But for now, man, 5 minutes a day of breathing will help you with your reactions. I guarantee it.
Nice. Amazing. Thank you
Yep.
so much, Chris. And
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it to take the time and invest in here.
Yeah. It's my pleasure, man.
So
Thank you so much.
glad to host you. And people, if you like this interview, give us a thumbs up. And again, you can go to Chris, meet him, ask more questions. You're very welcome. And if you're watching it on YouTube, hit the subscribe button to get more tools to your arsenal, and come and say hi into the group. Meet more like-minded people. And again, Chris, thank you for being here.
Right on, man. I love what you're doing. I love it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. We talk soon. And people, if you like this message, just share it with other people.
Thanks, guys.